The body wasn't supposed to be found. Hey, night listener. Tonight, we enter the shadows. The rain hasn't stopped for days. You watch it smear the windows like someone trying to erase what's already gone. Street lights buzz in the dark. Flickering above a sidewalk, no one dares walk past midnight. A shopping cart rattles in the alley, pushed by no one. Somewhere in the distance, a dog howls like it remembers something you're still trying to forget. If this story found you, maybe it's because you've been followed too. So, before we vanish into this mystery, like the video and subscribe only if you can handle the truth buried beneath the lies. Tell me in the comments, are you more drawn to the truth, the thrill, or the justice? Now lock your doors, take a deep breath, and follow me into the dark. You weren't supposed to see the headline, but there it is, flickering across the dusty corner TV in the diner. No sound, just words crawling across the bottom like ants fleeing a sinking log. Body found in Shale Creek. Ravine, investigation reopened. You freeze with the coffee halfway to your lips. The mug doesn't shake. You've trained your hands not to do that anymore. The waitress asks if you want a refill. You say no, because the name's not in the headline, but you already know it's her, because she was buried. Deep, quiet, out of the way. She was supposed to stay gone. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Outside, your car sits beneath a sagging power line. It's been cleaned twice this week. Just in case, you leave a crumpled bill on the counter and step into the cold. It bites harder than you remember. Not the air, the feeling. Back in the driver's seat, you check your phone. No messages, no missed calls, just one open tab from 2 weeks ago. How deep does decomposition affect dental records? You swipe it closed. The drive home is silent. No music, just the low hum of tires and memory. And then your phone vibrates. Unknown number. You don't answer. You wait. The voicemail dings 5 seconds later. You listen. A single breath, then a whisper. She wasn't supposed to float. You pull over, hands tight on the wheel, because that voice, that's not hers, that's his, and he's been dead for 8 years. The glove compartment creaks open. You dig beneath the insurance papers, the half-dead flashlight, the faded photo of a version of you that no longer exists. There's a key, old, rusted, marked with a code you've forgotten the meaning of R207. You close the compartment. You look in the rear-view mirror, and there behind your eyes is the same thought you buried with her. The wrong person died that night. Everyone lies, especially the ones who dig the hole too carefully. Her alibi sounds too rehearsed. She says she was alone that night, but her phone says otherwise. You never liked the sound of her voice. Too smooth, too practiced, like she'd rehearsed every word in mirror before letting it leave her mouth. She spoke like someone who already knew how this would end. Now she's everywhere again, her face on news clips, her name in half-heard whispers at the gas station, her story pieced together by people who weren't there. And she's telling them exactly what you expected. I was home that night, alone, watching TV. The reporters nod. The audience buys it. And you know why. Because she sounds like someone with nothing to hide. But you remember her differently. You remember her pausing a little too long when the detective asked what show she was watching. You remember her checking her phone after she said the time. You remember thinking she's building the lie while she speaks. And now her phone disagrees. Not publicly, not in the headlines, but someone leaked it. A single screenshot. You get it from a blocked email with no subject, just an attachment. A time-stamped notification. 1:17 am. I'm here. Don't make me come inside, sent from her phone to an unknown number. On the same night, the victim disappeared. You stare at the screen, and for the first time in years, you feel it again, the chill that crawls in behind you when you're not looking, because you know that number. You've deleted it 100 times. It's yours. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You scroll back through your phone's archive, dig into the hidden folders, the encrypted threads, and there it is, a thread marked R. No full name, just one final message. She'll talk if they find her. You sure she's deep enough? Sent from you, not to her, to someone else, but who you try to recall the timeline. You thought you were alone that night too, but now you can't be sure, because the silence you remember doesn't feel like solitude anymore. It feels like being watched. The key in your coat pocket presses against your ribs. R207. Maybe it's time to go back. Not because it'll fix anything, but because something you buried back then didn't stay dead. You glance up at your window. It's fogged. From the inside, you haven't breathed near it in hours. Someone else has. It was never about the truth. It was about control. And she's always known exactly how to tell a story. Everyone lies, especially the ones who get the script right on the first take. The blood on the scarf wasn't his. One piece of evidence doesn't match the victim, and it never makes it to the report. You shouldn't have gone back. But here you are, standing in the unit. The key still opens. Storage room 207. The air smells like cardboard rot and bleach. The light flickers when you step inside, then steadies as if it recognizes you. You slide the bolt behind you, just in case. The room is smaller than you remember. Or maybe your guilt is just bigger now. You push aside the boxes you labeled with made-up names, holiday lights, old books, tools, misc. None of them true, none of them even opened. Until now, the second box on the left, the one marked junk, creaks when you shift it. Inside a zippered plastic bag, sealed twice over. You know what's in it before you see it. The scarf. It's blue now, though it was white once, still folded neatly, still damp. But now it smells like rust. You unfold it slowly, carefully. The bloodstains smear across your fingers like ink still wet. But the color's off, too dark, too thick. You take out the envelope taped to the underside of the box lid, one you left for just in case. Inside a lab report, unofficial, quietly run, paid in cash and fear. And right there on the second page, the analysis. Blood type AB negative. David's was O. You freeze, because the scarf was supposed to be his. It was the piece that justified everything. The scene, the disposal, the story. But now it belongs to someone else. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You run through the names in your head. Who else was there that night? Who else bled? You fold the scarf, slower this time. The report says the sample had female DNA markers. That leaves one person, her. The one with the perfect alibi, the one who never raised her voice, the one who cried on cue and blinked at the cameras just right. She bled that night and never said a word. You grab the bag, the report, the key. You think you hear footsteps behind you as you leave, but when you turn, the hallway is empty. Back in the car, your hands are shaking, not from fear, from certainty. You drive 2 hours to the lab, park out front, take the bag inside. The man at the counter looks nervous when he sees what's inside. This is old, he says. Still real. You answer. He nods, takes it back, and as he leaves, you glance at the visitor log. Only one other name in the past 3 days. Her name, written in small, even script. Next to it, under request type, access to case 1177 personal items. She already knew you'd come. She left the scarf for you to find because she wanted you to know that this isn't over, that maybe it never was. It was never about the truth. It was about control. And maybe you're not holding evidence anymore. Maybe you're holding a warning. Everyone lies, especially the ones who leave clues just clean enough to be believed. The missing photograph tells a lie. An old picture resurfaces, but the date in the corner doesn't belong. The envelope arrives without a return address. It slid under your door while you're asleep or pretending to be. You wake to the dull rustle of something brushing the welcome mat, and by the time you throw the door open, the hallway is empty again. No footsteps, no scent, just stillness. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You kneel slowly. Pick up the envelope like it might bite you. Inside is a single Polaroid, glossy, not dusty like you'd expect, not faded with time, just out of place. You hold it up to the morning light. It's the creek, Shale Creek, the ravine where the body surfaced, the place where everything was supposed to stay hidden, the backdrop of your worst memory and her perfect lie. In the photo, the rocks, the slope, the broken fence at the overlook, and two figures standing near the edge. One is you, the other you swear is her. You blink, look again. The shadows are long, early evening maybe. The photo's corner is marked with a timestamp burned into the white frame. October 12th, 1:04 p.m. But that can't be right, because the night she disappeared was October 10th. You were already back in the city by the 11th. You remember packing your bag. Remember checking the locks twice. Remember driving away with the windows up and the music off. You shouldn't have been anywhere near that ravine after the 10th. She couldn't have either, unless the body didn't stay there, unless someone brought her back. You scan the photo for signs of tampering. Nothing obvious. No fingerprints, no watermark. You flip it over. One word is written on the back in slanted red ink. Replanted. You set the photo down, but it still stares at you. Because if that date is right, if someone posed you there, then it means the night you thought everything ended wasn't the end at all. You check your texts from October 12th. Nothing strange, nothing urgent, except one from a number you didn't recognize at the time. You forgot something. You scroll further. The sender's name was deleted weeks later, but the number matches something else, the contact marked R in your archived messages. You were there, not for guilt, not for grief, for cleanup, and someone else was watching, someone with a camera. It was never about the truth, it was about control. You pull open the drawer by your bed, the one with your old phone, the one you swore you'd wipe and toss and never look at again. You plug it in. Wait. The screen flashes, loads, lights up with a burst of buried memory. There, tucked in your gallery, an image you didn't take. The same photo. Except this one's been cropped. Your face is blurred. Hers isn't. She's smiling, not afraid, not coerced, smiling. And suddenly, the question isn't why she died. It's why she wasn't supposed to die alone. Everyone lies, especially the ones who stand just out of frame. The eyewitness saw the wrong smile. A neighbor remembers a grin, but it wasn't on the face they think. The call comes just before dusk. You don't answer it, but the voicemail transcribes itself anyway. She smiled before the scream. I remember because it scared me. That's all it says. No name. No context. You know who it is. You've always known. Mrs. Ledrow, the neighbor from 2 doors down. She was half blind even before the surgery, but her hearing was sharp, razor sharp. The kind of woman who could tell you who'd walked past her stoop just by the weight of their step. She was never questioned properly. Her statement was buried in a supplemental report that no one read, let alone believed, because what she said didn't fit. I saw her smile before the scream. They all assumed she meant the victim. They wanted her to mean the victim. But what if she didn't? You pull up the street footage, not the official feeds. They've been scrubbed, clipped, cut for convenience. You check the independent feeds, the home security systems, the stuff the police didn't know existed, and there it is. A grainy, colorless clip from a motion-activated doorbell camera. Timestamp, October 10th, 11:43 p.m. You, standing on the sidewalk, just outside the house, hands in your coat pockets, and behind you, in the shadows, her. The smile isn't wide, isn't showy, but it's there, a tiny, satisfied curve, and she's looking right at you. You freeze the frame. Zoom. There's something else in her hand. A phone. A lighter? No. A blade. Not raised. Not threatening, but visible. Reflecting the streetlight like a wink in the dark. And then you remember the scream. Short, high-pitched, ripped from silence like a curtain or tearing in a theater that never opened. Everyone said the scream was hers, but what if that's the lie? What if the scream came from someone else? You knew, but pretended you didn't. The files from the original case say she was attacked from behind. No signs of struggle, no defensive wounds, too clean. But the video says she had time to smile, time to approach, time to choose. That's not panic, that's planning. You call Mrs. Ledrow. She answers on the first ring. Yes, she says. Before you even speak, you clear your throat. You said she smiled. Are you sure I never said she? You pause. What I said, the one who walked away smiled. Then she hangs up. And suddenly it hits you. The footage never shows the full moment, just the before. The after is missing, redacted, erased, or worse, replaced. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You step to the mirror in your hallway. It's clean, no dust, no cracks, just reflection. But your smile, it doesn't look like yours anymore. It looks like hers. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe the thing Mrs. Ledrow saw was you, smiling the wrong smile, at the wrong time. Everyone lies, especially the ones who forget what they looked like before the scream. A key with no lock shows up, found in the killer's pocket. It doesn't match any door in the house. The first detective missed it. The second one logged it. The third one, he's the one who buried it. You find the key again, buried in the case file you were never supposed to have. A photo of evidence, item 32 listed as brass key, unmarked, recovered from suspect's coat pocket. The suspect, at the time, was David, the same man who pleaded guilty, the same man who by every public account ended the story neatly, but the key never came up in the trial, because the lock it matched never existed, at least, not in any official record. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You print the photo, study it, try to remember the feel of it in your hand. Smooth, cold, lighter than you expected. It was the only thing he didn't explain before he confessed. Now it sits in your palm again. How? Because someone slid it into your mailbox this morning, in a black envelope with no name, no stamp, no handwriting, just the key and a note. It still opens something. You hold it like a riddle. Let the weight settle in. Where did he get it? What was it supposed to unlock? You try the old addresses. Nothing. You try every drawer, every basement, every file cabinet you ever stored his things in? Nothing. Until you remember the cabin. The one he said was hers. The one she never told anyone about. It was supposed to be burned down. Fire claimed it last winter. But when you drive up there 4 hours and 2 missed calls later, you see it. Still standing, rebuilt, smaller, tighter, but intact. You step onto the porch. The wood groans under your foot like it remembers the last time. The door's new, but the lock, it's old, and the key fits. You turn it. It clicks. The door swings open with a sigh that sounds too much like a secret. Inside bare floorboards, mildew air, silence, until you see the desk. One drawer, center locked. You open it. Inside is a box. And inside the box, photos of you, sleeping, walking, talking to her. One of you holding a shovel, another of you at the ravine. You don't remember anyone taking them. You were careful. You were so careful. And yet, at the bottom of the box, a tape recorder. You press play, static, then a voice. Not David's, hers. I told him I'd let him take the blame. That was the deal. But he made one mistake. Click. Tape ends. You rewind. Play again. This time you hear it in the background, a soft ticking. A watch, a metronome? No, a countdown. You hear her breathe. Then the whisper. The key isn't to a place. It's to you. You drop the recorder. Stumble out of the cabin. Because now, it's not about what the key opens. It's about who locked you up. It was never about the truth. It was about control. And someone used David's confession as the final turn of the lock. Everyone lies, especially the ones who give you the key after they've already closed the door. The victim had dirt under her nails. Buried secrets clawed their way back, literally. They say the body was clean. No signs of struggle. No bruising. No scratches that couldn't be explained by the fall. But you saw the report before it was finalized. The early notes, hastily scrawled. Not meant for court, meant for truth. And the line that still haunts you, soil particles found beneath fingernails fresh, likely disturbed within 24 hours of discovery. Not from when she died. From when she was moved. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Because if that's true, if she clawed at the earth in her final moments, then she wasn't buried after the murder. She was buried alive, or worse, reburied. A second grave, a second chance to scream. You drive back to Shale Creek, this time without turning the headlights off as you approach the fence. It's midnight. The wind cuts through the trees like whispered instructions. You park where the tire marks still faintly groove the dirt. Someone's been here since the body was found. You climb down the ravine slope with a flashlight in one hand, gloves in the other. Not your gloves, hers. The red pair you kept in a drawer for reasons you told yourself you couldn't explain. The soil is loose, disrupted, not like before, like it was turned recently. You kneel, sift, and there it is, a broken fingernail, caked in mud, still clinging to a strand of fabric that doesn't match anything she was wearing. You pull it free, hold it under the light. It's part of a jacket, your jacket, the one you thought you burned. You stumble back, because that means you were there when she was moved. Not just there, touching her, helping, but you don't remember that. Or you won't let yourself. Your phone vibrates in your coat pocket. Unknown number. You answer this time. A breath, then her voice. Not recorded. Alive. You shouldn't be digging, she says. You already buried yourself. Click. You drop the phone. It lands face up in the dirt. The screen glitches, then goes black. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You stand. Your hands are shaking. Dirt under your nails now, just like hers. And it hits you. Maybe this whole time you weren't unearthing the past. Maybe the past was pulling you back in. Everyone lies, especially the ones who dig with clean hands. Someone was framed and they let it happen. The accused has the motive, the means, the past, but not the right memory. You used to believe that guilt always revealed itself. You thought a guilty man flinched when questioned, looked down when photographed, hesitated before saying, "I didn't do it." But David didn't flinch. He smiled, signed the confession without blinking, recited the details cleanly, as if rehearsed, like he wasn't just admitting what he'd done. He was writing the script for everyone else to follow, and no one questioned it, because it was simple, because it fit, because it meant the story could be closed. You knew, but pretended you didn't. But now, staring at the autopsy report again, line by line, you see it. David's fingerprints weren't on the body, not on the wrists, not on the throat, not even on her coat, which you knew she wore until the end. There were prints, yes, but they didn't match him. They matched you. Only the prints were smudged, incomplete, too broken for court, too convenient to question. You call Mercer the original detective. He doesn't answer. You text him one word, why the typing bubbles appear, then vanish. 3 hours later, you get a reply. He wanted it that way. That's all. You sit with that for a long time. What does it mean to want to be guilty? Maybe it's easier than explaining why you weren't. Maybe David took the fall because he couldn't remember what really happened, and because it didn't matter anymore. Because someone had to go down, and he loved her, or he hated you, or both. You pull out the recording again, the tape you found in the cabin. You play it. At the very end, there's something you missed. After she says, "That was the deal," there's a pause, then his voice. Just make sure they never look at her too closely. Her, not you. Her, the one who smiled in the photo, the one who sent the voicemail, the one who called herself the victim and played it beautifully. And maybe she was, but not in the way everyone assumed. What if David took the fall for someone else? What if both of you were standing over that body, and only one of you walked away clean? It was never about the truth, it was about control. You search the old trial documents, dig deep, testimony, reports, the plea deal. Nowhere does it mention who first called 911. That call came from a burner, and now you realize it was her. She called it in. She let him get caught. She knew how to frame it, because she'd been planning it for longer than you thought. Everyone lies, especially the ones smart enough to let someone else confess. The clock in the hall is 5 minutes off. The timeline collapses under a single detail no one bothers to question. There's a reason people never question clocks. They trust them blindly, like time itself can't lie. But you've always known better. You glance up at the hallway clock, same one that's hung there for years, ticking softly. Old brass hands, dust clinging to the edges, like it's afraid to move forward at the 7. But your phone says to 5:42, 5 minutes. You adjust it out of habit, and then you stop, because something clicks in your mind. The night it happened, the night you say you were somewhere else. And David confessed. The timeline relied on the photos, the security footage, the call logs, but one thing tethered it all together: the time she was last seen alive. 5:42 p.m. from a security cam mounted across the street. You saw the footage yourself. She leaves the house, walks to her car, gets in, drives off. But what if the footage was wrong? What if the clock on the feed was 5 minutes fast? Or worse, What if your hallway clock was 5 minutes slow? You knew, but pretended you didn't. You tear through your files. There it is. Footage time-stamped 5:42. She's alone. But if it was actually 5:47, then she wasn't alive when she left the house. She was already dead. Or someone else was behind the wheel. You freeze-frame the footage. She's wearing sunglasses. Big ones, too big for her face. Zoom. Enhance. The light reflects off the lenses, no eyes visible. You rewind. The way she walks off, too smooth, too tall. You compare it to older footage, side by side. Different gait. Not her. You call Mercer again. Who confirmed the security footage ID, you ask? Long pause. I did. He says, you sure it was her? Another pause. Then, it was good enough. Good enough. That's how people die twice, once when the body falls, and again when no one cares to question the frame. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You pull up your voicemail again. The first one. The breath. Then the whisper. She wasn't supposed to float. Not die. Not run. Float. Because someone moved her. Dressed her. Drove her car. Parked it by the ravine. Left the timeline clean. And no one questioned it. Because the clock said what they wanted it to. Everyone lies. Especially the ones who trust the ticking sound in their own hallway. Her lawyer quit mid-trial. Not because she was guilty, but because he read something that made him afraid. You remember watching the trial on an old screen in a bar where no one cared about justice. They watched it like a soap opera, like guilt was entertainment, but something happened no one ever explained, not on camera, not in transcripts. Her lawyer quit. Day 4, mid-trial. No scandal, no statement, no courtroom blow-up. He just left. One day, he was defending her. The next, he wasn't answering calls. They said it was health reasons. But 2 weeks later, you saw him in the park, jogging, healthy as ever. You knew, but pretended you didn't. His name was Eli Parker. A clean record, quiet. One of those soft-spoken lawyers who wins cases by never raising his voice. You search him now. He's gone completely private. No firm, no office, just a PSO. Box in a part of town where people go to forget they exist. You visit it. A cracked building, rusted mail slots, dust so thick it tastes like silence. Inside the box is a single envelope addressed to you. You pause. How did he know you'd come? You open it. Inside, a copy of his resignation letter, a photo of a journal page, one sentence, handwritten. Read this and walk away. The journal page is hers. You recognize the looping script, the circles instead of dots, a page torn from a leather notebook. You thought she burned. The entry reads, David thinks he's in control, but he'll do what I ask. He always does. Then another line, added Batim if he doesn't. I'll use the video. You freeze. What video? You search the evidence logs. Nothing listed. No mention. You call Mercer again. Leave a message. Did a video ever go missing? 10 minutes later, your phone buzzes. Blocked number? You answer. A woman's voice. Familiar. Measured. If you find it, don't watch it. It's not for you. Click. Your heart pounds. You search the official record. Look for anomalies. Anything that might reference an unreleased piece of evidence. And there it is. It. Exhibit 19. Video footage omitted per legal counsel. Omitted, not lost, suppressed. You go back to Parker's note. Read it again. Read this and walk away. You don't. You drive home. Open your old hard drive. Dig through the folders, deep in the archive. You find a file. No label, no timestamp, just a spiral icon. You open it. A black screen, then grainy footage. A room, a chair, David sitting, crying, head in his hands. She walks into frame, smiling, hands him a glass, kneels beside him, then looks straight into the camera. If anything happens to me, this is what they'll find. David looks up, eyes swollen, voice shaking. Why are you doing this? Her answer, because it was never going to be you. David, not really. The video cuts out. You sit in the dark, screen glowing like an open wound. It was never about the truth. It was about control. She built the lie. He believed it. Parker saw it. And he left. Not because she was guilty. Because he finally understood who she really was. Everyone lies. Especially the ones who convince the world they're victims because they almost were. The killer confessed but didn't know how. Words can be twisted, especially when they come too early. There's a myth about confessions, that they arrive like a floodgate breaking, that guilt pours out in one clean monologue. Tears, trembling hands, truth finally uncloaked. But that's not how David confessed. You were there. You remember every word, because you replayed it 100 times in your head, listening not for what he said, but for why. He didn't say, I did it. He said, it was my fault. That's not the same thing. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You dig up the interview transcript, the one taken down by Officer Halverson, the rookie with a badge too new and a mind too eager to close cases quickly. You read it again. I let it happen. She asked me to help. I didn't stop it. Those were the real lines. But Halverson typed something else. I killed her. One line, clean, marketable. The kind of confession that fits neatly between commercial breaks. You scroll to the bottom of the file. There's a comment you missed before. A side note in brackets. Subject appeared disoriented, possibly under influence. You checked the blood tox report. David was sedated. Heavy sedatives. Enough to blur memory, to twist meaning, to turn guilt into compliance. And now you remember something else. The voicemail? The one from months before the trial. David's voice. Panicked. She said I should just admit it, that I'd feel better. But I don't know what I'm admitting to. He sounded lost. Not like a man covering his tracks. Like a man walking into someone else's ending. You saved that voicemail, but the police never got it. Because you never sent it. Because some part of you wanted to believe the case was over. Wanted someone else to be guilty enough to carry it. Now, you understand what he meant. He didn't confess because he remembered. He confessed because she told him to. And he trusted her. More than he trusted you. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You play the voicemail again. The last line this time is clearer. You'd missed it before. Buried under static. If I say the words, does that mean I did it? The silence after that is unbearable because it echoes the one in your head, the part that still doesn't know where your responsibility ends and hers begins. You look down at your hands. They're clean. But that doesn't mean they're innocent. Everyone lies, especially the ones who mistake obedience for guilt. The victim was hiding something worse. Diaries surface, not about love, not about fear, about plans. The police combed her apartment for anything that could explain it, what she did, where she went, why she died. They took laptops, phones, search histories, everything public, but they didn't find the diaries. You did. She never hid them in drawers or safes. That would have been too obvious. She kept them where no one bothered to look, inside the walls, behind the plaster of her bathroom mirror, folded between insulation and rot. You found them because of a note David left in the tape box. Check the place where she saw herself the most. You thought it meant vanity. Turns out, it meant intention. You pry the mirror loose, crack the drywall, dust falls like ash, and then pages wrapped in plastic, bound by twine, labeled with nothing but dates. You take them back home, lay them out on the table, volume after volume of neat, measured handwriting, not poetry, not pain, blueprints. Each entry reads like a plan disguised as memory. March 3rd, David still thinks I'm unraveling. That's good. People are easier to guide when they feel useful. April 14th. I left a strand of my hair in the trunk of his car today. Just one. I want to see how long it takes for him to find it. May 6th. If I go missing, I want them to look at you first. You've always been the better lie. You knew, but pretended you didn't, because reading these now feels like opening a trap that was always meant for you. Her entries grow more focused the closer she gets to the end. She tests people, times them, marks how long it takes them to betray themselves. And then, this July 1st, the camera's almost in place. David keeps asking questions. I tell him I'm documenting healing. In a way, I am. August 19th. I wonder how long the trial will last. If he cries, they'll believe him. If I smile, they'll remember me. You flip through more pages, then you find it. October 9th. I don't know who'll survive. Maybe me, maybe not. But it doesn't matter. The narrative will be intact either way. This wasn't a reaction. It was a design. Her death wasn't an accident or even a betrayal. It was the final act in a performance you didn't know you were cast in. It was never about the truth. It was about control. And she had it from the beginning. You lean back. The room spins slightly. The air feels thinner than it should. Because now you don't know what matters more, that she manipulated him or that she manipulated you. Everyone lies, especially the ones who journal the truth before anyone else knows what it means. Someone paid to keep it quiet. A wire transfer hits the dead man's account hours after he's found. The thing about money, it always leaves a footprint, even when it moves quietly, even when it wears gloves, especially when it's sent to someone who's supposed to be dead. You're going through the old financial records again, not out of curiosity, but because something about David's final week never sat right. He hadn't worked in over a year, no side gigs, no family handouts. His accounts were nearly empty. And then $50,000 deposited the morning after his body was pulled from the creek. You knew, but pretended you didn't. The statement shows the wire came from a private trust account, registered in Delaware, clean, cold, legally untraceable, unless someone makes a mistake, and someone did. The memo line on the transfer says only one word: execution. Not legal jargon, not poetic, literal. You call the bank, pretend to be the estate manager, feed them a half-true name and a fully calm voice. They send over the public record of the account holder, just initials KD. But you recognize the street address listed as the origin. It's hers, the same apartment, same building, the one where the mirror once held the diaries behind its glass. You sit back in your chair. So many things make sense now. David didn't just take the fall. He was paid to. Maybe not with the promise of survival, but with the idea that even in death, he could provide, could clean the slate, could become a tragic figure with a purpose. And maybe she promised him more. A deal. Confess. Disappear. And maybe, one day, come back. You don't believe in ghosts, but money moving after death, that's something else. You scan the transfer again. Look closer. The account it was sent to is listed as Legacy Holding, not his name, not his account, just a pass-through. Someone else collected the money. Someone else knew the confession wasn't enough. You trace the next transaction. It lands in a charity account, an organization with a name that matches something from her diary, the Spiral Project, a non-profit, supposedly for domestic violence survivors. But you can't find a single recipient. No events, no services, no outreach. Just a glossy website and a donation portal that's been active for 5 years and never publicized. The registered agent, E. Barker, David's lawyer, the one who walked away. It was never about the truth. It was about control. They weren't just covering tracks. They were building a system, one that converts silence into sacrifice. You log off the site, burn the printed records, flush the ashes, but the number stays in your head. $50,000. You think about what she's worth now. You think about what you're worth. And for the first time, you ask the question that's been circling you since this all began. Was she the victim or the buyer? Everyone lies, especially the ones who pay in advance. The therapist broke confidentiality. She said it was an accident, but the right secret ended up in the wrong hands. The office still smells like lavender and dust. You haven't been back here in months, maybe years. Not since the session stopped. Not since you agreed, silently, that some things were better left unanalyzed. But now you're here again, in the waiting room, staring at the same water-stained ceiling tile. And the file in your hand feels heavier than paper should. It's your file, and hers. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Dr. Layton was calm, too calm. The kind of therapist who let silences stretch long enough to trap you. She never told you what to think, just asked questions and watched what you lied about. And she saw you both, you and her. She said it was unethical. She said it wouldn't last. She said, secrets grow like mold between people pretending to be whole. You didn't listen then, but someone did. Because inside your file, slipped between scribbled session notes and psychological assessments, is a copy of a letter, not addressed to you. Addressed to the police. A report. Patient exhibits signs of guilt-adjacent behavior. Possible complicity in ongoing manipulation and emotional coercion by redacted. It's dated 3 weeks before the trial. It was never submitted because at the bottom of the page, there's a single line scrawled in ink that isn't hers. Do this, and your license dies with it. Threat promise. You don't know who wrote it, but you have a guess. There's one more envelope in the file unlabeled. Inside an audio tape, labeled only with a date. The week she vanished. You play it in the corner office, where you once cried about dreams you couldn't remember. The recording begins. Her voice, tired, controlled, practiced. He doesn't know what I'm doing. That's the only reason this works. Pause, breathing. Then, if I disappear, he'll think it's his fault. That's important. That's necessary. Another voice. Dr. Layton. Soft, cautious. Why is that necessary? She laughs. A sound like frost cracking. Because people believe a broken man, not a prepared woman. You pause the tape. Stare at the wall, where your own reflection hovers in the glass frame of her degree. You want to smash it. Want to burn the file. But instead, you rewind and press play again. This time, you hear what you missed before. In the background, barely audible, a clock ticking. 1, 2, 3. Then her voice again. He won't see this coming, but you might. It was never about the truth. It was about control. Dr. Layton didn't break confidentiality by accident. She did it because someone was always listening. Everyone lies, especially the ones trained to keep your secrets safe. The burned dress wasn't hers. The tag doesn't match, the size doesn't fit, and the scent isn't smoke. They found it behind the cabin, half buried in ash and wet leaves, a scorched heap of cloth and buttons, blackened lace clinging to charred seams. The media called it the final piece. The police logged it as hers. You nodded when they asked you. You said yes. It was the one she wore to the gallery opening. You even remembered the earrings she paired with it. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Because something about the smell was wrong. Not just smoke. Something metallic, sharp, like blood left too long in sunlight. The lab ran the basics, confirmed it was women's clothing, size 4, traces of her DNA on the collar. But that's where the facts end, because you finally get access to the extended report, the one they redacted from the trial, and the bottom line reads, garment tag does not match known brands owned by victim, unknown manufacturer, fabric inconsistent with retail purchase. You recheck the photos. There, beneath the singed zipper barely visible, a dry cleaning tag with someone else's initials, L.R., not hers. You dig deeper, through old dry cleaning logs, private records, service invoices from the nearby town, and you find it. The dress belonged to Lena Rawls, a name not attached to any trial, not listed in any witness pool, but her name shows up once in an old yearbook, standing beside her best friends, at least, for a time. Then, nothing. Lena's name disappears from the public record 2 years before the trial. No obituary, no arrest, no missing persons report, just gone. You check property records. Lena owned the cabin before she did. You feel the chill climb your spine like a whispered accusation. The dress wasn't hers. The cabin wasn't hers. The story wasn't hers. It was borrowed. Maybe more than borrowed. Maybe taken. You go back to the diaries, flip to the early entries. August 3rd. Lena still doesn't lock her closet. Some people are too trusting. I won't be. August 11th. She has good taste. The kind you can wear without asking. August 30th. One of us has to disappear, and it won't be me. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The identity she built, the helpless girl, the art lover, the tragic loss, none of it was her. You check the old missing persons sites. Finally, you find it. Lena Rawls, last seen leaving a therapist's office. Date 2 months before the trial. Photographed in a familiar red dress, the same one you claim to recognize. Everyone lies, especially the ones who burn someone else's life to build their own. There were 2 wills, only one signed. The legal version left her nothing. The hidden one left her everything. The will was supposed to be a formality, a piece of paperwork no one questioned. After all, the deceased had no children, no spouse, no lingering debts, a clean slate. David left everything to charity. That's what everyone believed. Neat, simple, noble in a twisted, almost cinematic way. But when you dig into probate court records, something breaks the narrative in half. There's another will, same signature, same date, different content. You knew, but pretended you didn't. The official will is typed, filed by Parker, witnessed by 2 interns from the firm. Classic language. Donates all assets to foundations supporting restorative justice. But the other one, handwritten, 1 page, ink faded, scrawled in uneven lines like it was written in a hurry or under pressure. And at the bottom, David's name, signed, dated. You compare the 2. One line stands out in the handwritten version. In the event of my death, I leave all assets, financial, intellectual, and personal, to her full name, not coded, not veiled, explicit. You bring it to a handwriting analyst. They confirm it's his signature, same as the typed version. But the pressure is different, lighter, hesitant, like he signed it twice, once by choice, once by request. You look into the filing history. The handwritten will was submitted first, then withdrawn by Barker. No explanation. You call the registry, ask who had access to both versions. They stall, then they fold. There was an instruction from the client. He changed his mind last minute. But the logs show something else. The withdrawal came hours after David was found, not before, which means someone filed it posthumously, then pulled it before it could raise flags, because the first will benefited her, the second will protected her, and only one made it into court. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You remember something from the diaries. Legal paper is just a mirror. It shows who's left standing after the screaming stops. You go back to that quote, wondering if it was metaphor. Now you know it wasn't. You check property records again. She now owns the building that used to belong to his uncle. You look up copyright filing. She holds a patent originally filed by David for a security app he never launched. She didn't just inherit his silence, she inherited his life. Everyone lies, especially the ones who write the ending before the body's even cold. The surveillance footage was edited. A 4-minute gap hides what might be the only honest moment of the night. You sit with the footage again, the one the jury never doubted, the one that supposedly shows her walking to her car, alive, unthreatened. 5:42 p.m. You've memorized every frame, but tonight something catches your eye, something you didn't see before. A flicker, one frame, barely a second, a blur in the lower left corner of the screen, gone in a heartbeat. But it's not just a flicker, it's a cut. You rewind, play it back at quarter speed, and there it is, a jump, a stutter in the time code, 4 minutes unaccounted for, a glitch that isn't a glitch. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You isolate the footage, overlay it with the raw timestamp data, the kind stored in the digital encoding, not the visual playback. And now the numbers don't match. Between 5:38:17 and 5:42:09, nothing. No motion, no sound, no camera drift, just 4 minutes of absence. You track down the original technician, the one who maintained the surveillance system for that street. He's retired now, runs a bait shop off Route 6. You drive there, show him the footage. He nods slowly, stares at it like an old scar. That's a patch, he says. Someone cut the loop and inserted a clean sequence. Not easy to do unless you have admin level access. Could you tell who did it, you ask? He shrugs. Depends on the footage's chain of custody. You already know who had it first. Detective Mercer. He was first on scene, first to secure the neighborhood tapes, first to say case closed. You visit the precinct. He's gone, retired early, unreachable. But his replacement says something strange. Mercer left a box behind, said it was personal. You can have it if you want. You take it. Inside a burned DVD, labeled only with a time range, 5:38 to 5:42 p.m. You don't want to play it, but you do. It's raw, unfiltered. She's not walking to her car. She's running barefoot, bleeding, looking back. Behind her you, or someone who looks like you. Same coat, same gait. Only it's not your face. You pause. Zoom. It's David. But something's wrong. His eyes are wild. His hands are empty. And she's holding a phone filming him, recording her own fear, or maybe manufacturing it. Then the video cuts. You sit in the dark, the image seared behind your eyes. That was the moment, the one that could have rewritten the entire story. And someone made sure no one ever saw it. It was never about the truth, it was about control. You lean back and whisper the line she left on the recorder. If anything happens to me, this is what they'll find. Now you wonder, what didn't they find? Everyone lies, especially the ones who cut out the part where things get real. The autopsy was signed in pencil. A single erasure changes the cause from uncertain to convenient. You weren't supposed to see the original autopsy, not the clean final version filed for the trial. The first one, the one with crossed out notes, coffee stains, and a signature that was supposed to disappear. But you have it now, courtesy of a retired clerk who kept a copy for protection, though he never said from what. The cause of death, originally listed as undetermined, then erased. You tilt the page under the light. The indentations still show. Beneath the final line, asphyxiation due to strangulation, is the original phrase, possible overdose, no external trauma. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You call the medical examiner, now long removed from the department. He hesitates when you ask about the report, then sighs. I don't make the edits, he says. Sometimes they come back to me marked in pencil. Suggestions, never official. From who doesn't say. But he pauses again before hanging up. Ask yourself this, he says. Why do people die more cleanly on paper than they ever do in real life? You reread the rest of the file. Photos attached show something you missed before. Her fingernails are clean, no bruises on the neck, no burst blood vessels, no signs of a struggle. If she was strangled, it was the quietest strangulation on record. You check the tox screen again. Traces of a sedative, same one David had in his blood, same one mentioned in her diary. Keeps things quiet, she wrote. Just enough to slow the pulse, just enough to seem dead. Was it a real death or a rehearsal? You remember the burned dress, not hers. The surveillance gap, 4 minutes. The voicemail, she wasn't supposed to float. The autopsy is a story, like everything else in this case, written by many hands, edited by those who needed it to say something true enough to pass as fact. It was never about the truth, it was about control. You study the signature again. Dr. Kessler. Except he retired 6 months before the report was filed. So who signed it? And why pencil? Because it was meant to be rewritten. Maybe she died. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she let the story write itself and erase the rest. Everyone lies, especially the ones who make sure the death looks exactly how you'd expect. She called someone before it happened. The number isn't saved, but the voice on the voicemail sounds like it's been expecting her. The call log was always just there. One last outgoing call from her phone before the signal vanished forever into the woods. It lasted 3 minutes. No contact name, just a number, 212-555-0197. You'd glanced over it before, filed it away as a dead end, but something keeps tugging at it now. The neatness of it, the precision, so you call it. It rings once, then goes to voicemail. A man's voice, low, smooth, unmistakably calm. You've reached the line. Say what needs saying. Click. No name, no ID, but the voice is familiar. Not because you've heard it before, but because it sounds like David, but older, slower, measured. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You trace the number. It's tied to a pay-as-you-go burner, registered through 3 shadow companies. But you find one anchor, a payment tied to a business license, Spiral Project LLC. That name again, the same name on the fake non-profit, the same name on the wire transfer. You listen again. Say what needs saying. You dig into her old voice memos, the backups stored on her cloud account before everything got locked down by the state. And you find it. One file, dated the night before her death, titled Rehearsals at 3. You play it. She breathes in. Then, in a composed voice, "This is my last check-in. Everything is ready. If the fall doesn't work, initiate protocol spiral. You'll know when. David's primed. He won't break. He's never been able to say no. But if he does," she laughs, "well, you know what to do." You stop the recording. Your hands shake. It's not a cry for help. It's a script, and she was handing it off to someone still alive, still watching, still pulling strings. You check the voicemail settings for the 212 number. There's an option remote playback. You call it again. Input the access code from the file metadata. It plays back the last saved message. Her voice, panicked, different this time. No rehearsal. He knows. He's not supposed to know. I don't think I can go through with it. Then a shuffle. A scream, muffled. A sound like something being dropped. A door slamming. Silence. The timestamp. 10 minutes before the 911 call. Which means the final moments weren't staged. They were real. And someone let them happen anyway. It was never about the truth. It was about control. Control of the narrative. Control of David. Control of her. And now, control of you. Everyone lies. Especially the ones who give you a number to call when the truth becomes too much. She was never in the coffin. The weight was right. The casket was sealed. But the ground doesn't hold what you thought it did. You visit the cemetery because you need to see it for yourself. Not the stone, not the flowers, the weight. The grave sits beneath a weeping willow, always too quiet, too picturesque for someone like her. The headstone reads her name, the year of birth, a single word beneath beloved. But beloved by who you knew, but pretended you didn't, because even then, on the day of the funeral, something had felt off. The casket was closed, no final viewing, no cause given, per the family's wishes, they said. But she didn't have family, not real ones, just the ones she collected, used, rearranged. You walked past the stone and into the caretaker's shed. The old man on duty isn't the one from the records. This one's newer, younger, doesn't know your face. You ask him when the coffin was last inspected. He gives a hollow laugh. We don't exhume for suspicion, he says. You slide him a folded bill and a name. 10 minutes later, you're holding the original burial certificate. It's signed, but not by the attending physician. Instead, it's notarized by someone from out of state. And something's missing. No embalming records. No death certificate from the coroner. No chain of custody. You dig deeper. Call in a favor from a contact in mortuary logistics. Someone who owes you for what you didn't say about a body that once went missing from the riverbank morgue. They run the casket's barcode. It was shipped sealed, never opened, filled, not at the funeral home, but off-site. The recorded weight, 112 pounds, too light for her frame. But the paperwork accounted for it. Sandbags, weighted layers, something to mimic decay. Not a body, a story. You drive back to the cemetery, kneel by the grave. The willow rustles like a secret breathing beside you. You press your hand to the dirt, cold, still, but you don't feel her, because she's not there. She never was. You remember the journals, the rehearsal tapes, the edited footage, the missing minutes, the erased lines in pencil. and you finally understand the last phrase she left in her final entry. The coffin was always the last performance. The applause. That's when they stop asking questions. It was never about the truth. It was about control. Control over death. Control over resurrection. Control over you. You look down at the grave again. There's a fresh rose resting on the soil. Not wilted. Placed today. You're not the only one who knows. Everyone lies, especially the ones the world insists are dead.